Here, this make you all nostalgic?
You know, that is actually before my time. That is a winner, though.
The Last of Us is a horror game when the fun guy comes out to play. It was a big hit when it first came out, and may have more remasters than Street Fighter 2 one day. But before we begin, two things. Number 1. I hate horror.
This is
Not
High Jam!
So don't expect horror game reviews in the future. But I do enjoy a good story. Number 2. I may point scenes out from the show to compare what was and what they did new. So without any more delays, let's launch ourselves into The Last of Us. This shall be on the Part 1 edition. I'll start with the TV show, because it's the prologue to the game's prologue. I'll try my best to get the clips I need, but I may not get them all. It starts with an interview with a doctor by the name Dr. Newman, voiced by John Hannah. At the year 1968, he explains how the fungus works with ants, and explains how global warming would lead us to catching the fungus. So, how does this happen when places like Hawaii exist? I'll get to that in a bit, but if that is true, I guess the band Buster was wrong. We won't be living underwater in the year 3000. We will be toads. But more evil.
Oh shit, it's code.
Now let's get to the game, where Sarah is waiting for Joel, as Joel is trying to get a job. Joel is voiced by Troy Baker, and if you watched the Uncharted reviews, you'd know he voices Nate's brother, as Sarah is voiced by Hannah Hayes, as their HBO counterparts are voiced by Pedro Pascal and Nico Parker. Sarah gave Joel a fixed watch, as it's his birthday. This will be important in the future. So Sarah gets tired, and Joel takes her to bed. Then Tommy calls Sarah, because Joel wasn't answering his phone.
Hello?
What's that?
Tommy is voiced by Jeffrey Pierce, as his HBO's version as Gabriel Luna. Now let's talk about playing as Sarah. A cool feature the PlayStation 5 controllers have, is that they light up a specific color to the characters you are playing. I never mentioned it in the Uncharted reviews, because I only played as Nathan Drake and Chloe Fraser. With the one time with Sam and Elena, her color is purple, and you can move and pick up items, such as this card, and you see the news having problems.
I've come to make an announcement. Shout ahead.
I also like how we see a giant explosion in the background, because it feels so close to our characters. When we head down, after picking up Joel's phone, Joel comes in, panicking, because of what's going on. And their neighbor, Jimmy Cooper, has turned. Someone save Sheldon Cooper, please. But Joel has to kill Jimmy, so he tries to calm Sarah, and Tommy comes. So they make it to their truck. In it, you could look all around and see how it's going to Sugar Honey Iced Tea, and we crash. Then we play as Joel, and Sarah got injured from the wreck. So we pick her up and run. So we follow Tommy as he protects us, then going down our alleyway and into a bar. So we separate from him and run, as two infected chase us, and someone saved us. That's good. Oh, that's bad. Thankfully Tommy saved us, but not Sarah. This opening was great, because we got to see what happened on Outbreak Day, they named the beginning of the infection, and how the infection begins. I'll talk about these things in a bit, but it was also emotional. Neil Druckmann is more darker than half the Disney films are. And it also makes it difficult for Joel in his future conflicts with someone I'll get to. Now let's talk about how the HBO series handles the scene. In the start, it goes through Sarah's whole day, and little hints on the infection, such as a student twitching in class, or the military coming in the town. As Sarah is getting Joel's watch fixed, it's different, but I actually like it, because of how much it foreshadows the infected, and if you are new to The Last of Us, you'd have no idea of when the events begins. But I would say, when they do start, I was surprised how little they jump scare you. When Sarah comes to her neighbor's house, you just see the infected, then the infected just jumping from nowhere, but it did give us a hint how they infect others. They give spores to others. I think that's what it is. But I do think they should hold it for a reason in the second episode. But Joel does come, and it plays almost the same after. But let's skip to Sarah's death. It's still emotional, but I do like some differences they had. Joel in the game is focused on only Sarah, seeing his world destroyed as the other Joel is calling out for Tommy's help.
Tommy, help me!
But Tommy knows she's far gone. I would say, I like how in the game, Tommy stops and slowly gets down on his knees. I believe he does it because he knows she was gone, and I feel like he was hurt like Joel was, and this was how he was showing his grief. Now let's jump to their present days. Both happen on different years. In the game, Outbreak Day was in the year the game came out, as the show was 10 years behind, so the show was on our present day time. As the game was 10 years ahead of the show, so Joel has learned to survive, and learned how to communicate with others, outside his quarantine zone, such as Bill, who we'll see later on, but in his quarantine zone, he's living with Tess, voiced by Annie Wershing. But in the HBO series, it's Anna Torv. She got jumped by Robert's men as she was making a drop. So off we go to kill Robert. So when we make it to a few guards, we give 1 hour cards to enter because they had the day off, which Tess got from the deal from Robert. In quarantine zones, to live you must have these ration cards. It's their version of money. To get these, you either have do jobs to live in the quarantine zone, or smuggle in the cards, or die if you don't.
You are dead. I'm dead!
Now in the show, they actually do show Joel getting them, from both a job, and from someone smuggling them to him for something special.
Pills.
An explosion happened as we were trying to get in, so we had to run for it. Now let me tell you about photo mode. In photo mode, we can move the camera, we can rotate it to look like we're a bat.
I'm Batman.
Zoom in and out, get logos in, different background, and others in there. But one thing I am disappointed in, no facial mode. That is a crime, that we cannot make Joel pull real faces in this photo modes. Anyway, let's get back to the point. We get our bag. With it, we can store so much stuff from within. I'll show you in the snow, because I have all the items at that point. On the right is your mini guns, not those ones. These mini guns, any pistol, the left holds a rifle, a shotgun, a bow, and then we have the with other crafting items. Once you pick up the item, you are free to create it again, and you find different books helping to improve them, such as shivs. They are made by scissors, but with no jokes aside, you should save them for them, as you got nail bombs. Place them on the floor, then it blows. Others include smoke bombs. Thomas would be proud. And these incredible items, Molotovs, throw them at infected and they burn.
And we're gonna let it burn, 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 burn.
You're best of using them by distracting them by throw a glass or a brick, but lure them in one place then boom. Funnily enough, you see Joe lighting them up, then if you choose another item, he'll put it back in the bag as it's still lit.
What's the matter with you?
We also have medkits. That'll heal you of course. To use these items, hold R2 to heal yourself with the med kit, as the other items. Hold L2, then R2 to throw, but shivs you must use on opponents for stealth kills, with you must grab with triangle, and to choke them out, it's square, but to shiv them, press triangle. Guns works the same way as they do in Uncharted. Hold L2 then fire with R2, up close press square. To hit your opponent with the hands God gave you, or with the held item you have. Now
let's get the show on the road.
In this place, it holds spores. In the game, spores are in dark places, where infected live, as in the show. Well, I'll explain that when it comes time, so you always have a mask to put on whenever you're where the spores are, and weirdly enough, you can even eat candy bars in these sections. I'm not joking.
Oh. Were you going to eat that?
This candy bar is where spores are at, yet you can just eat it. In this game, you have to be very careful, because ammo is very limited. Unlike the Uncharted games, you can't pick up 27 bullets at once after you beat opponent, so your best option is stealth, which is where this game's mechanics comes in. You have the listen mode. When you press R1, you can hear your opponents, depending how far they are. It's very limited, at start at least, but there is a way to improve it, which I'll explain later. But we make it through the town, seeing how the fireflies are crumbling. Who are they, you may be asking? Give me a second. You really like that giraffe, don't you, little girl? Now we sneak on by to Robert, killing his men holes. We're at it, and we finally catch up to him. Now Robert is voiced by Robin Atkin Downes.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
Seriously, why are you almost always in all the Naughty Dog games?
I have no idea!
That no longer matters. Let's see how you like a Kamehameha. I mean, we catch up to him and pin him down. We find out he doesn't have our guns, and sold them to the Fireflies. So we kill another Robin Atkin Dunn's character again. So Marlene shows up, voiced by Merle Dandridge, and in the show, is voiced by her video game counterpart, as Robert's TV show's counterpart, is Brendan Fletcher. She wanted Robert to deliver something, but since he is dead, we make a deal for guns.
Lots of guns.
To deliver this thing. Now I want to take it back to the show. In this section, we only see Joel and Tess find Marlene, who was bleeding out, and who killed Robert, because she already had people to take Ellie, but both sides got shot, and the reason we go, is because Joel wants a car, to get to Tommy.
Let's go.
Which I have to ask, why don't you borrow Bill's truck, or even any car around, in the game? It's a different story, but I'll explain that when we get there. So let's get back to the game, where we follow Marlene to the hideout, and check out the guns, to confirm they can deliver. Now I want to talk about the AI stealth. The enemies will only detect you. Their codes are, if we see or hear Joel, then we attack. But our allies though, they could just walk right in front of them no problem. So when we made it, we meet Ellie, voiced by Ashley Johnson. But in the show, it's Bella Ramsey. Let's talk about the casting of the show and game. In the game they're particularly all are great. In the show, there are two kinds of acting in the show. Scrap and art. For example, here's a scene from the game, and here's a scene from the HBO series.
This make you all nostalgic?
You know, that is actually before my time. That is a winner, though.
I like how in the game, Joel says the line with a tone that's trying to say, I'm not that old, and with the word you know, to highlighting he's making a point, but was glad to have some form of music in the car, with that little laugh added to the line, as in the show's version. It just sounds lazy.
This make you all nostalgic?
This is actually before my time.
Great.
It's a winner though.
When Pedro says, it's a winner though, it felt like they just had him say it, because it was in the game, just like a Disney remake. Now I'll get back to Disney remakes at some point in this review, but back to the game. We make it to a building with Ellie, as Tess checks the guns out with Marlene, and this is where they'll slowly build a relationship, and it gets hinted throughout the story that Joel sees Sarah in Ellie by looking at his watch, or even calling her baby girl. Now we rest. This is also a way to regenerate health when it's in a time skip, and Tess comes back, and it seems like Marlene actually has the guns. Before we continue, let me tell you about the puzzles in the game. From the creators of Uncharted, I bet they made crazy puzzles to solve in this game. We got plank, generator, ladders. Plank, generator, ladders.
Plank, generator, ladders. Plank, generator, ladders.
You only got 3 things on this menu!
So this game doesn't have the best puzzle in it. Then let's carry on then. So they make their way to the drop-off point, only to be held up by some guards, who scan Ellie, and when Ellie stabbed one, Joel and Tess took the 2, and we see that she's positive, by which I mean she's infected, but she shows in the bite mark, and explain how she had it for 3 weeks.
Was that the bite of 87?
Now in the show, they actually show us that the Fireflies are keeping her held up, in case she turns, but luckily not, and that's why Marlene believes she could be a cure to humanity, so the two both continue with her, and then a bunch of military soldiers comes, also known as Fedra, which I'll be referring to them as military, for the rest of the video. And we have to sneak by them. Okay, just forget what you just saw. Now in the show, one is just holding them, but I think Joel or Tess could have just held this guy and make their way, but they don't even make an attempt. Especially when this guy was just going to the toilet, and it was the same guy from before, but clearly they weren't so close, especially with when Joel actually defends himself. But after scanning Ellie, Joel stops him from shooting her, then his PTSD triggers, and he just charges at him and pummels his face in. Even though any normal soldier would just fire at him, this is some Nathan Drake luck right there, and they figure out she's infected, just like the game. But they actually don't get attacked by any other soldiers, because no gunshots was heard. Now on to the next episode. I'll have to start with the show again with this one, but it explains how they got a scientist by the name Ibu Ratna, voiced by Christine Hakim, and they explain that someone was infected by a flour factory. Now the heat was one thing. Now humans can't eat flour or because of the chance of becoming infected, which is why Joel, Tommy and Sarah didn't become infected, because everything with flour and sugar would to kill you, so she suggested to get rid of it with a bomb. Now let's get back to the game. The gang make it out. Tess slowly believes it could be possible to save the world, so she wants to continue the adventure, as Joel doesn't, because of the things that are out there.
I need to remind you what is out there.
But Tess continues, which Joel follows along.
Women win. Yet again.
So they make it in this really tall building, as we learn about one of the infected, these things. So we get jumped by one, and Tess saves us. And we learn these ones are attracted to sound, because you can pick up a bottle or brick, and throw them one direction to lure it away. Now let's talk about the infected, shall we? The first form is the runner.
Miss Ronson, please.
They were the only infected on Outbreak Day, because they were just infected. It takes a long time for them to truly become something scary. They're not so scary, you won't have a problem with them. But don't let a bunch surround you. I never got a bunch around me, but I think you use the L3 stick and move around crazy with it. Holds pressing L1. I think. As for the second phase, the stalkers. These things are just as sneaky as you when you use your listen mode. Sometimes you won't be able to hear them. Only when they're moving do you do. Then what I just faced, the clicker. Blind as a bat, but make sure they don't touch you. They're instant kills. The only way you can survive when they grab you is to get ability with Joel through some pills you find when you use a shiv to save yourself, but it doesn't kill it. Now there's a mystery fourth one.
We call this thing
Bloaters.
Someone get her out of here! Thank you!
These things are tanks. They'll waste a lot of your equipment, so best is to avoid them. But I was too stubborn to do that. Now there is a thing that they can do, and that is take parts of themselves and throw spores at you, which you can shoot off. Now I want to talk about the 3 versions. Even if the part 1 edition is beyond better than the original graphics, I would say the bloaters are better in the first and remastered game, because you can see where they grab parts of themselves and throw the spores at you. As for the part 1 versions, it's almost impossible to tell, especially when you're running away from it.
And our latest edition, Ginormica.
Out of them all, I would say stalkers are the worst to face when partnered with clickers or bloaters, because they're sneaking around just like you, and when they attack you, clickers or bloaters will hear you fighting against them, so sneaking is almost impossible with them around. Now throughout the building, we run through some more infected, and even pick up these items. Now I told you about Molotovs, so I won't talk too much about it, but just to give you an example of how you find them. But right now we get to a museum, which we can upgrade our weapons. But you need items in order to upgrade them. I'll tell you about these items later, but for now, we separate from the ladies, and have to face some clickers. So I didn't get the clip to where I fought or showed the shiv door mechanic.
What an idiot.
But here's how you use it, and what I suggest to do. I would suggest to save one shiv, so you can open these doors, because they contain some useful items, such as gears, the thing we use to upgrade our weapons, and pills, with ammo and items for crafting items. Now we meet back up with them, when Tess gets attacked by this one, and we face more on the way, which we win, and make it to the top of the museum, and take in the view, with Joe looking at his watch when Ellie gets down. Now let's get to the show again. In the start with the 3, they waited the whole night to see if she would turn, and no she didn't.
Hello.
Now, I wasn't sure about talking about this, but Screen Crush mentioned in his video about the sandwich. He says,
She doesn't have to fear bread.
What?
She doesn't have to fear bread because she is immune to the fungus.
she doesn't have to fear bread, which makes me think this is a gluten sandwich. The question I have is, why? What would be the point in making bread if it poisons you? The only one who could eat it is Ellie. If you had resources for food, why would you make bread where flour destroyed the world? I wouldn't have included this part if Screen Crush did say that line, but back to it. In the episode, they did explain how stepping on spores would make a bunch of infected crawl towards you and they head to the museum in daylight. Now I do think it makes the scene less scary, but it does make it logical. If they're trying to test it, she was infected. Now this is where they face the clickers, and I would say this was a good scene. I like how Joel tells Ellie how they work by hand signals, and they move very similar to how they do in the game. And I like how when they got detected, Joel pushes one of those statue heads over to distract the infected, and they do make it out and head to the drop point, only for them all to be gone, and Tess is infected, just like the game. She gets infected by the one who attacked her. Now there is a difference in this scene. In the game, Joel and Ellie leave because the military officers just killed some fireflies. Then they came back when they got there, which I have to ask, why? All the fireflies are dead, so you should have no reason to return. Did one just forget your keys or something? So Tess stays back to hold them off, dying in the process, but tells Joel to get her to Tommy to bring her to the fireflies. So we run, and Joel is going to honor her dying wish. We make it out. As for the show's version, the difference being, they get a herd of infected coming. So Tess gets ready to blow them all up, but instead of taking her to Tommy, she asked if Joel would take Ellie to Bill and Frank, and to convince them to take her. So she tries to light a light as they come, which I have to ask, why don't you pull a grenade pin? It's easier, and you don't have to risk trying to light the lighter. So she blows. Now there is one thing that I liked from this scene that wasn't in the original, and that's how she twitches to show how it's infecting her. A cool little detail. Now back to the game, where we fight off some soldiers, then make it down to our exit, where we see Ellie breathing in the spores, proving that she's immune. Now in the story, she can't swim, so you have to get this wooden pallet. This is one of the puzzles in the game. I already said how the puzzles ain't that creative, even though they made Uncharted, but the stealth was the bigger focus of the game mechanic, with the idea of, do I waste ammo against these enemies, or save it for the future, especially for survivor or grounded mode. But if you want to hear what I think would make for an interesting puzzle for the game, then why not in the sewers? Have it you have to control the pipes for your allies. Have it so you have to control the steam. So you have to choose which will be safe or not. But to get back to the point, so we make it out, with Joel telling Ellie to follow his rules.
Follow me.
And not to bring up Tess.
Ever.
Or tell others about her immunity, so they head to Bill's place in the next episode. Starting from the game side, we make our way through the forest and into Bill's town, learning how it's filled with infected, and that there's traps all around. Now I passed one of the safes from the last section, but I'll tell you them now, because I found the codes to open this one up. With these safes, you have to rotate it around. Sometimes you'll hear a click, meaning you're on the right number, or you could just look around for a note telling you the code. And we even see an arcade game called The Turning, where Ellie explains how her friend, which is in the Left Behind DLC, knows everything about the game, which makes me think of The Walking Dead and Mortal Kombat being in one game. Speaking of, you can customize both Joel and Ellie to wear different clothes, even costumes, the guns and bags, but not a lot with it. I prefer Ellie's outfits because they're more, and they have references to games such as God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Mortal Kombat 2, even Jak and Daxter and Uncharted, which in the show, how they make their way to Bill's town is by walking. Again, but Ellie finds Mortal Kombat 2 instead of The Turning, and Joel explains how humans turns to becoming the infected by the flour and sugar, even explaining how they killed people to ensure they don't turn. Before we get back to the game, I just wanted to talk about this scene. I don't like this scene because it's the only time the stalker ever appears in the show. Think we would get a scene showing Joel or Ellie outsmarting these sneaky creatures.
Wrong!
No other time does it appear, and it's just in the rubble. We don't get to understand this phase of the infected, because the stalker was trapped. I have an idea how to introduce them in the series, which I'll get to one point near the end. So keep that information locked inside your brains. But let's get back to the game. So we see the whole town has traps, which you see a killer clicker who goes through it. To avoid it, throw a brick at it.
Use the force.
Or duck under it. I heard that in the original version, Ellie might go through it without being affected by it. At this rate, you're immune to anything, and we even get a bow. So we reawaken Troy Baker's Hawkeye within, after making it through a building. Just want to pause, so I can use my own photo mode. We get trapped, and Ellie has to rope us down, as infected comes in and tries to kill us. Then Ellie got us high enough, so they only get Ellie instead, but we fall down. And we get saved by Bill, voiced by W. Earl Brown, as in the HBO show is voiced by Nick Offerman. So we run and find one of his hideouts, where he makes sure we're not infected, which they're technically not, and Joel explains that he needs a car.
I'm gonna do this. There's some gear I'm gonna need. It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs.
This has gotta be the second worst job you ever gave me.
Oh, you mean after the Raccoon City job?
Third worst.
So Bill agrees to help, and gives keys to Joel, for Ellie's handcuffs, which he escaped, and hit Bill with that pole, which you can actually pick up. That's an actual cool detail. Up to this point, you'll be finding these books to help with your items. So we get to the church, where Bill gives us a shotgun, and explains how caring for people is gonna get us killed, like it did with his partner. Now up to this point, we also get the nail bomb, and these tools to help upgrade your weapons. The first items are called pliers. I asked someone close to me about these tools, because they are a builder. Pliers are used to connecting wires together, but since Joel is working with a gun, what do? They can hold the spring in place. In the gun, there is a spring that makes the bullet pop out, so Joel probably adjusts the spring in the gun he uses, and there is other tools you find throughout the game. So heading out, we need to get to a school, because a truck with a battery is there, but when we got there, it was too late. The battery was gone, so we had to fight our way through the building, until we find our exit, but then, we fight the bloater.
No thanks, I choose life.
Now this is the first time you'll fight these things, but as a heads up, fire is super effective against them, so we escape, and when we got to a building, we meet Frank, who is Bill's partner, which I want to jump back to the show now. In the third episode of the show, it's a Bill-centered episode, where it explains how he survived, by waiting until everyone moved out, then taking the place for himself.
Somebody once told me the world.
It shows how he kept the infected away from his house, how he met Frank, voiced by Murray Bartlett, how Joel and Tess meet them, which in the game, they never been inside the town, and they meet at different places, which he tells Ellie.
Where do you usually meet him?
Different places.
You've never been here, have you?
I know this is where he lives, but no, I ain't never been here.
Which in the show, Frank was the one who got Tess around, and communicate through the radio, and Joel tells Bill about making an actual fence, securing the town, and it also explains how they die. Now I want to pause and talk about both, and the big differences between them. Now there's two sides with the HBO version, the good and the bad. I'll start with the good, that the change does. I like how they build Bill and Frank's relationship, since in the game, he's dead, but in the show, they did show us how they got together. Even if I think it drags for a bit, I still am glad we actually got to know Frank, even if they did change the part where he says peace to Bill. But now on the other side of the bad, it takes away from Joel and Ellie's time, and they threw away the idea of the town being surrounded by infected. Now I want to jump to Disney, and their remakes. In the first Aladdin, the genie jumps around pretending to be different people, to show how Prince Ali is a big deal, that everyone should know about, while in the live action, he just says it without turning into a bunch of people in the crowd. In the original Lion King, Zazu got crushed by the rhino, and that was how Simba and Nala escaped him, as in the live action. A bunch of birds takes him away. Now why did I say those examples? Because the HBO Last of Us series is telling the same story as the original, but there's a huge difference between the live action Disney films and the adaptation of The Last of Us. The original Disney films could break reality. Zazu wouldn't be able to survive that crush, or Gaston couldn't lift 3 women in live action, like they can in cartoon. Which I think Aston Raimi Master makes good points in her videos, while both the game and the show can't. Sure, there are scenes which shouldn't be possible, such as the plane scene in Uncharted, but not the ways cartoons could. And here's a problem I have with the show, it takes the easy route. From the first 2 episodes, we got to see the infected, while in the future episodes, except for one, we barely get to see them ever again. As I said, I like that we got to see Bill and Frank's relationship build, but we miss out on a whole town which was full with infected, because when Joel and Ellie get to the town, they just pick a car up and leave, while we had to escape a load of them in the game. Okay, enough nitpicking. Let's get back where we left off. So Frank hanged himself because he got bit twice, but when I checked the body, I couldn't see the bites Bill pointed at, but we did get this note, which I haven't mentioned yet, in the game. You pick up notes from others. I really like this, because it makes the world of The Last of Us much bigger. My favorite being a man by the name Ish, and how he protects his new family. Now when we were busy with Bill, Ellie found that the battery was stolen by Frank, which it did say on the note, which we give to Bill, and he throws it away, and I like how we can pick it up, and the paper is scrambled, so we have to push the truck and get it started, as the infected came at us. And we got the car to go, and we ran out of here.
Fucking out of here!
So we say goodbye to Bill, and he gives us his tube, but we don't actually use it, but the HBO Joel uses it, and off our way, in the next episode. We find out that Ellie has stolen some things from Bill, such as a comic called Savage Starlight. If you're wondering, it was when we were at his house, the church, such as messing with his pile. Ellie even brings music with them. And some porn. But don't worry, she throws it out. Anyway, we get on our adventure, only to be stopped by traffic. So we backtrack to another area, where this guy is bleeding out.
Are you dead?
No.
It was a trap, and we get pinned down.
Boop, pin in.
Now they do have it in the show, and even if I thought it wasn't as memorable as the game's version, I did like how they put spikes on the floor in the show. That was a smart move. Don't get me wrong, getting hit with the bus is more memorable, but having Spike on the floor makes more sense. Speaking of, in the game, we actually get to see a map showing how they plan to get the drivers. Now remember that comic. From now on, we will be picking up comics for Ellie throughout the game. Now we are stuck in this town. Now let's jump to the show. After the two defeat the ambushers, Joel allows Ellie to keep the gun she had for emergencies, which does happen in the game, but instead of the gun being stolen from Bill. Just a little later on, but we actually see who was behind the attack. That person being Kathleen, voiced by Melanie Lynskey. Now I want to say something about her. I like the idea on them adding in new characters, because in the game, the notes make The Last of Us a much bigger world, while the show doesn't do that, because it's little side stories for you to read into. Whole we get to see other people around, but I do have a problem with her. She doesn't sound like her Apocalypse's leader, she sounds like your 4th grade teacher.
But before, people dying was okay. When you were safe and protected and ratting.
Let's take a look at Negan from The Walking Dead. For example, here's a scene from both show and comics that shows why he's a strong and threatening leader. He has the good guys, and he slowly taunts them by singing Eeny Meeny Miny Mo, choosing who to kill, and kills Abraham, then Glenn, and the whole time, he's enjoying it. This scene perfectly tells me why he became the leader of the Saviors, because he's psychopathic. He's having fun killing people by telling jokes to the others. Heck, you could even see in the same psychopathic energy in Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performance in Glenn's rematch against him, and I, and many other people love it. If you asked me, I would have gotten Kristen Milioti to play the role as Kathleen, because I think she nailed her performance in The Penguin as Sophia Falcone. But there is one good part that comes from her scene, such as this soldier. He's Perry. Voiced by Jeffrey Pierce, the original voice actor for Tommy. That's pretty cool, but he explains about the underground infected, foreshadowing something to come in the next episode. And Kathleen tells Perry not to tell anyone.
When do we tell the others?
Not yet.
I'm sorry you want to keep this secret. Why don't you get them to make a bomb to blow them all up? Anyway, let's get back to the game, where we face a bunch of hunters, which ice solids make them all inside this building.
Oh no!
Then we make our way through, and unfortunately we get stuck on a bad elevator, so we're stuck down here, and we need to face stalkers, the most annoying infected. Now I want to talk about stealth for a bit. Infected can't see light, so you're fine with flashing lights at them, but not humans. They'll catch on. But there is one thing to be aware of with stealth, and that's how they detect you. They won't tell you when stalkers detect you, to be annoying and to surprise you, but with the others, you'll hear a little noise growing to tell you they're spotting you. I honestly don't like this way of detection, because it tells you you're being detected, but from where? With the diamonds in Uncharted, you know where they're coming from, where you are being detected. Now stealth kills are fine. It's very human, satisfying to pull off, but does take some time. For advice, if you're going to choke someone, make sure to move them from the side, so no one can see you, then kill them with shivs. The kills are more instant, but if you want stealth, I would say Ghost of Tsushima does stealth better, because you can tell where someone is suspicious, and you can even do 2 kills at once, and both have the listen mode, and to do that, press and hold R1. Okay, back to topic. You must power a generator, get a key card, and power the door, but be careful of the bloater. And after having a heart attack, we make it out. We beat some more soldiers, with the last guy will be waiting above you, which Joel didn't hear with his listen mode.
Hey buddy, eyes up here.
We were drowning, only to be saved by Ellie, which Joel is disappointed in, so making it out, Joel gives her advice on shooting, teaching her how to shoot, to make sure every shot counts.
I sorta shot a rifle before, but it was at rats.
Rats.
And apologizing for not being thankful, and leaves, and when they're all done, this is where he gives Ellie the gun, and making it through, meets this big thing, and have to escape it, and so they do, and when they got the high ground, they enter a building, where they meet these 2 people, but before continuing, let's get back to the show, where they only find a place to sleep, and put glass on the floor, for in case someone comes over, and head to bed. By the way, it worked. It's just Joel didn't listen out.
What are you doing?
I don't want someone sneaking up on us while we're sleeping.
In episode 5, we begin with the 2. Now to understand why these 2 are here, we need to rewind time. These 2 are being hunted by Kathleen. Those 2 being Henry and Sam, voiced by Brandon Scott in the game as Henry, and Naji Jeter as Sam. As the HBO's versions are Lamar Johnson as Henry, and Kevian Woodard as Sam. We get to see that they're hiding from Kathleen, hoping to escape from the city. And they saw Joel handle the soldiers back at a crash, and Henry thinks he can protect them from the infected from underground because of how he took out those soldiers. So they sneak on by to where they were sleeping and held them at gunpoint to get them to help them, which they agree to work together. But I do think in this scene, Joel acted more immature than Ellie did, because Ellie sounds like they're in trouble, yet Joel literally said, "Everything is great," in a very haunting and sarcastic way.
Everything is great.
But they do work together in the end. As for the game, Henry jumps Joel, but luckily, Joel got him off, and they figure out both had kids, so they know they're not with the bad guys. Now I want to talk about Sam, since there've been some differences with him. For one, his age. In the game, he's around Ellie's age, 13, making it easier for her to connect with someone. But in the show, he's 8, the second being, he's deaf and mute. which I feel like Neil Druckmann dropped a lot on him. This world is filled with creatures who use sound as a detection, so he's at a high disadvantage in this world, which is fine if you want to change the source material, since it's its own thing. But right now, let's continue on with the game. So we make our way to a secret base of theirs. So, that just happened. And whilst they're getting there, Sam picks up a toy robot, which Henry told him to leave, to keep the bag full of useful items. It's a good thing we're just as strict on Ellie as Henry is on Sam. Anyway, Ellie, here's your comics. But speaking of, if you look away and rotate your head around, like a record player, Ellie will pick up the robot, a cool little detail. So we make it, and we're planning to leave in the night, so we wait. Now, both ours and Henry's goals are the same. Henry wants to get to the Fireflies, to find a new place to stay. As we're going there to hand over Ellie, making it through the night, we take the lead.
Follow me, fellas, I will lead you to victory!
And make our way through a few of the soldiers. And when we helped out Henry and Sam up, the ladders broke on us. So Henry decided to leave us.
Henry!
So we run, and even make it to this bar, which is a reference to the first chapter of Uncharted 3. That's really cool. So we run onto the bridge, which this thing chasing us, and we jump. And we grab Ellie, making sure she stays afloat, and we bump our heads, where Henry and Sam saved us, which Joel wasn't so thankful, because Henry chose to abandon us.
He left us to die out there.
No, you had a good chance of making it.
I'm sorry, had a good chance. The only exit was this door, which we slowly opened, as we were getting gunned down, and there were more soldiers on the other side of the building. In what world is that a good chance? Were they as incapable as stormtroopers or something? Anyway, we make it to the sewers, where we need to get to the other side. Now before we carry on, let's get back to the show, where Henry tells them that they need to go to the sewers, and that's the only way out of town. Okay, tunnel. I'm just gonna keep continuing on with the point, and they make it to the tunnel. And Henry explains to Joel why they're being hunted, because Sam had leukemia. He found a way to treat Sam's condition, a small amount of drugs that Federer had, and he used it for Sam, making Kathleen hate him for not saving his brother. One life for his brothers, which have to say, I think it's a good plot point, and it'll also play in the future with Joel. So they make their way through the night, with this sniper coming at them. So let's pull it back to the game, shall we? In the sewers, we are stuck with some infected around, and so we make it out, and we can travel through this town, looking all around us, seeing what's around. And Joel shows Ellie and Sam how darts is done. Or not. Is that the fox and the hound? And now a sniper is shooting at us, which we needed to sneak on by, and when we got on the top, we take out the sniper, and become the sniper.
Boom. Headshot.
We take control of the sniper, which we use to protect Henry, Ellie and Sam with, from more hunters, so we keep them off their back and face this tank again.
You again?
Now I do have a question though, why do they open the hatch? They are fine with shooting at them, and they know there's someone firing at them.
Jackpot.
So the tank crashes and Henry and Sam get attacked by runner and a clicker, and so we run. As for the show, Joel gets the sniper and fires at a truck that was about to ram into the three, and so it crashes through a building, where Kathleen was there hoping to get Henry, but the truck falls down a hole, where a load of infected started to pop up, with the gang running away, as Joel shoots at infected that comes near any one of them, mostly Ellie, and the soldiers are firing at them, even ramming them in, but then there comes the bloater. Back in that Bills episode, I think not having the bloater at the school works to the show's favor, because the bloater makes a bigger appearance here, and it even tore off Perry's head, like it does in the games, and when Henry, Ellie and Sam was about to leave, Kathleen comes in to stop them, only for one infected to get her, and so they leave. Almost all scenes from the game so far has been better than the show parallels, but this scene is actually way better than the game's version. and is my favorite moment from the show, because it foreshadowed in the 4th episode. A load of infected clawed their way to fight the soldiers, the bloater gets introduced, and Kathleen dies here.
Yes! Yes!
This scene is the GOAT, and so they leave, back to the game. The team is resting up, and Sam asked Ellie if she ever gets scared, which she says that she's scared of being alone, and Ellie gives Sam the toy robot, but he throws it on the floor, because he was bitten. As for the show, Sam actually told Ellie about the bite, which I find really dumb. I know they grew a bond, as they do in the game, but I would have warned Joel and Henry, so it's out of, they chained him up, or kill him, and at least Henry could have a chance to say goodbye to him. For example, if you make the right choices, in The Walking Dead, where Duck was bitten, and Kenny was trying to tell them he'll be fine.
You know he's dying.
Nobody knows shit. He'll be fine.
But inside he knows he was going to turn. At least Kenny had that final moment with Duck, before you or Kenny kill him, to end his suffering. If Sam was going to tell, at least let his brother say his goodbyes. Now to get back, Ellie says her blood is a cure, showing how she's immune, but it unfortunately doesn't work. And in the game, when Ellie was about to wake him up, he turns and Henry shoots Sam. Horrified of what he did, he shoots himself, and in the show, the same thing plays out, but I would say, I think that scream Bella Ramsey puts in was a nice little detail. I know the original had Ellie say this, but it didn't sound as horrified as that scream. This is probably be the only time I think she did a better job than her video game counterpart. And on to the next episode. In the game, they use the seasons to show how time has been passed, with it starting in summer and moving to autumn. I'm not sure if the TV show does this as well, because when they got to Tommy's place, it was snowing crazy, unlike in the game, when it's pouring down. But I would say, it is very unbalanced. Over halfway the game was in summer, and I think it was 1/8 was in autumn, 2/8 in winter, with spring having at least 1/10. So we make our way, finding a barrier, where Maria is outside, almost about to shoot them. She's voiced by Ashley Scott. Hole in the show is voiced by Rutna Wesley. Tommy notices us, explaining that we are good, and as Ellie is looking through the town, we talk to Tommy. He even gives us his photo of Joel and Sarah, which we give back, and we see how Tommy and others around here are enjoying life. They got the power back on. Plenty people help each other out, and Tommy is spoken for. So we ask if he could take Ellie, and that he gets some gear to head back home.
Tommy, I need this. Tommy.
He refuses.
No.
To take the girl, I mean. So after some fighting, some raiders attack, and so you defeat them. And when Tommy saw Joel with Ellie, he decides to take her, which I believe, he know Joel saw Sarah in Ellie, so Maria says no, and Ellie runs off. And we ride after her, and get to this house, where the two have an argument, as Joel is trying to bring her back.
You're going back to the village right now.
I'm not going.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'm staying right here.
You're going if I have to drag you every step of the way.
And in this argument, Ellie brings up Sarah, triggering something in Joel, and saying to her that they're separating, and that they don't have a close relationship, like a family, which got Ellie sad.
From now on, you're on your own. Alone.
But we have to deal with some hunters coming, and so we do and head on out, which Joel in the end decided to take Ellie with him. Now let's jump way back in the show, where they got to town, and unfortunately, up to this point, there is basically no more infected, only 2 more times they show up. Of course, The Last of Us is famous for its story between both Joel and Ellie, but the infected worked as a benefit to the story, and one scene perfectly shows us this. But right now, they get surrounded by hunters, which have dogs to sniff out the cordyceps, which in the first episode, the neighbor's dog sensed in the owner, but didn't know what it was, and their dogs are trained to sniff it out, which I say, it's a pretty cool concept. But Ellie was lucky the dog didn't sense it, and they make it to town, where Joel meets up with Tommy. Now I just want to talk about Joel's reasoning for going on the trip. In the show, he was meant to deliver Ellie to the Fireflies and get a vehicle.
And all the chickens escape.
But I have a problem with this motivation. Number 1. It takes away from his character arc. The idea of Joel is that he was just a man looking to survive, only having Tess by his side, and Ellie was the one to open him up. Joel may have taught her how to fire a gun, but Ellie did something to completely change him. She awakened something lost long ago within him. Compassion, which he lost after Sarah. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't a edgelord after that. He still have moments to show that he at least cares. But with the show, if he's too caring, then the growth isn't going to be as strong, because it would have less impact, and him doing a job just for his brother is going to damage that arc. Number 2. He could go to Bill's place. I bet Frank would have been fine with Joel borrowing a car in their whole entire town, or even ask for that favor, which could have been in the show, especially when he gave the suggestion to protect his town. I know he uses most of the cars for the walls, and in the game he mentions why he couldn't get the cars running, but Bill is a resourceful guy, and the town was never swarmed with the infected. This is why I don't like the reasons why Joel goes on this journey. If he was desperate to meet up with Tommy, and he does the job for a car, he only needed to get to Bill's town and take a car. From the original drop-off point, the town wasn't so far, and they don't pass as many infected across the city. Yes, there was this big herd of them, which they passed through, and was targeted by them because of them being in the Fireflies base. So anyway, let's get back to the point. They eat, and a girl looks at Ellie. This I believe was Dina, someone from the second game, the voice being Isabella Merced.
She was just curious. Kids around here don't usually look or talk like you.
What did Maria mean by that? Now in the show, it turns out Tommy is going to have a child with Maria, which I do wonder, what are they going to do with this baby in the future? But that's for the future to tell. Now he does accept, and so Joel has that argument in the show, and in the morning Tommy was about to head out, which Joel changing his mind, and taking her instead. Okay, so, I made a mistake. Joel doesn't take Ellie. He asked who she wanted to go with him to find the Fireflies, and even with the argument they had, she still wanted Joel, instead of Tommy. And to a university where they find some news about the Fireflies, now in the game. So we said our farewells to Tommy.
Goodbye.
And got to the university. They look inside the building, open gates, the way Uncharted 3 did, and face a bloater. Now what was meant to happen is that the bloater will slowly go after you sneak by it and start to open the door, which Joel slowly does. But this one, I got detected by the clickers, and the bloater just say, "Cowabunga it is." So we make it to a room with a bunch of recorders. One explains how they have moved, and the location was at a hospital. So we leave, but not before finding others around us, which they try to kill us, and once we thought they were all gone, one guy came out of nowhere, and it led to Joel getting impaled. Now in the show, this does happen. But it was done by only one guy. This annoyed me. In the game, Joel fought a few survivors before getting impaled, even killing more from being impaled, yet he got knocked down by one guy.
Knocked over!
Now you could make the argument that he was being attacked first. It makes it look more realistic and more grounded. But the problem I have with it is because Joel has lived with this lifestyle for 20 years. He has experience with this, trained in the military. Joel even killed a runner on Outbreak Day. And this is how he stayed alive for so many years. Heck, he was even checking the area to make sure no one was around before they got on the horse. Okay then, back to the game. They leave and Ellie actually does handle some of the survivors in the game. Well, she misses all her shots in the show, and I know this because the man who sent them said that 3 returned out of the 4.
You make every shot count.
Miss.
So Joel faints on the floor, where we get to play as Ellie now. But I'll jump to the DLC story, The Left Behind, because it happens in time order, and that it's the next episode. So let's talk about it, shall we? In the show, it basically follows what the game does, but they only focus on Ellie and somebody else's relationship. I shall tell you who. in a second, and only having a little time patching Joel up. That's all I need to say about that, except it did have a better arcade game that they actually played. But let's get to the game side of things. It begins with Ellie sleeping until she gets bit. This is Riley, who is voiced by Yanni King. As for the show, is voiced by Storm Reed, and she sneaks in Ellie's room, telling her that she found a place, so we head on over, and we play as Ellie, in the present day. Which I was surprised, that her controller color wasn't red. No kidding. I thought she would have red for her controller, not blue. I would have imagined it would be red, like Dante's color when you play Devil May Cry 5, because her main outfit sports a red top. But no, now, I never did the Left Behind DLC, but I did finish the main story 2 times before, so I was almost always on guard whenever I went somewhere dark, except the past, because I know how she got bit, because I watched that episode, before the Left Behind DLC. Now Ellie's whole journey, in the DLC, is to get some medicine for Joel, as the past shows how she got bitten. Which we also see how Ellie kills infected. Her knife is almost indestructible, it never breaks. Wait, if she had a knife that could almost never break this whole time, I could have been saving shivs, and getting secret doors open, with just this knife. That doesn't matter now, because we find a med box, it's empty.
It's empty. What? Fucking empty!
So we leap down some stairs and jump to the past, where we make our way through this abandoned places, and put on some Halloween masks, and Riley wanted us to roar.
Now let it out with a big grrr!
And we even throw bricks at a car, which I almost won, but I forgot cars have back windows. I was not happy with myself. Then we put some power on, and enter the building, which we then cut back to Ellie in the present, when we need to open a door, but to do that we needed to power it up, and, stalkers. Why did it have to be stalkers?
Man, this is a whole lot of bull.
Now you may recall I said that stalkers are worse, when paired up, with clickers and bloaters, but Ellie's fighting combat is so bad. It makes Atreus look good. But it does kinda work in a way, because Ellie isn't meant to be like Joel. He has the physical strength to actually punch someone, while Ellie looks puny swinging that knife. So we power the door and head on up, finally finding something to help Joel with, and back to the past, where we ride on the carousel. Riley even gives us this, no pun intended, volume 2, which she actually told a few jokes to Joel with.
What is that?
It's a joke book. What did the Confederate soldiers, what did they use to drink? Wait, I said it wrong. Just hold on, I'm reading it. I only have myself to blame. It's not abroad. It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
We also go in a photo booth, which you can pick how you want to take the photos, such as love, friends, or cool, but they are just the same faces you can pick from, and we get to our arcade place. Well, we can even get a trophy in a Jak and Daxter game, and play this arcade game, which is the fighting game Ellie told Joel about, which you don't play, but you pretend to play, and I kept failing, because I'm used to playing Mortal Kombat. So we finish him, and Riley explains why she took us. It was because she was leaving, since she's now a Firefly, and so we follow her, and before we leave, we have a game of, Splatoon. I'm joking. But you can't tell me this wasn't Naughty Dog predicting Splatoon. But it's water guns and we fire at Riley. Then we do a game when she hides. And we count. Which I just let her try and find me. Then I wet her. And we had a dance. With them two wanted to get out of this place.
Right to me and escape.
And showing how they care for each other. But then, we'll get back to that. So we try and get back to Joel, picking up a bow and arrow along the way, because somebody dropped it that far. How did you do that? Did you use the Force and give it to Ellie? Did she use the Force herself? Was she the chosen one? But if you hear, they're after Joel and Ellie.
Who gives a fuck about that old man and a little girl?
So you must kill them and make it back to Joel. And I do like how you can throw a brick and get the infected to attack them. Never in all my life was I happy a clicker was around. But honestly, I just got Rocket vibes from this. All I needed was Glenn Campbell and boom. I felt like Rocket, but there was one part that I felt was unfair.
It's not fair!
when a load of those survivors just jumped me. I died so many times from them. And to those who have sensitive hearing, I would say the death sound effect would hurt your ears, like it does with me. But more infected come, and I can't believe I was happy to see them. So kill them and make it to Joel. As for that flashback, we run from the infected, and Ellie got bit, which I check in the moment she did, and it didn't even look like the runner bit her arm.
See? You see? Oh, you don't see it? Right there! Wait! Right there!
But we took care of them, with figuring out we will turn into one, which Ellie actually didn't, as we know, but Riley did, and we give Joel her injection, and leave. Holes the show follows almost everything in the past, but didn't have the water gun section. As for Ellie in the show, she only found a needle for Joel's wound, and that's it. I don't like this change, because of what Riley's last words in the DLC was about not giving up, which is what Ellie did in the present day of the DLC.
There are a million ways we should have died before today, and a million ways we can die before tomorrow, but we fight for every second we get to spend with each other.
As Ellie just found needles in a house, I think it just makes the scene, and the idea of the DLC's message, weaker, if she just simply looks for items in the house, compared to looking throughout that abandoned mall, with infected running around the place. Now, since this is the first DLC story I'm talking about, I might as well give my thoughts on it, depending on which version you got. It's free, unless it's the PS3 version. And my thoughts are, fine. I like the effort Ellie goes through for Joel, and how you can set infected on other humans. But if you're in for more gameplay, then you're not gonna like the Riley section. That's more of the story section of the DLC, if you're into that. But to me, I think it's a played once kinda experiences. Now if I were to compare a DLC I think has more replay values, I think it would be the Jetstream Sam's DLC in Metal Gear Rising, because it gets right into the action. Builds on the story from the main story, such as Sam and Blade Wolf's relationship. Has 3 great bosses, one getting Sam to meet Wolf, one to test Sam's metal against a Metal Gear A, the same model that Raiden fought against and defeated in the beginning of the game, then finally against Senator Armstrong, which after the fight, he loses an arm and joins Armstrong, with a banger song playing in all 3 of them. It's half the time, but I would say it gives much more to the players. Now I better get on with the next episode, so here goes. In this part of the game, it's really grounded, like Left Behind was, so Ellie is hunting deer.
You are hunting deer in the direction of deer.
But we shoot it bleeds out, and then we meet David and James. David is voiced by Nolan North, as James is voiced by Ruben Langdon, who's also the voice of freaking Danton. Nice meeting Nolan North again. I enjoyed him as Nathan Drake and sure he'll be his charming self.
Crazy man. And get this, he's crazy man traveling with a little girl.
Okay, never mind. I actually really like his darker tone he puts on, because it's distrusting. And when you carry on through this part, he turns as bad as his voice. Now let's get back to the show, where we see David have dinner with his whole town. In the HBO show, David is voiced by Scott Shepard, which out of all cast, I think he's the weakest, because he sounds too ordinary. He doesn't sound as intimidating. If you asked me, I bet Gary Oldman would have been the golden choice for David. He can play civil, for the crowd, and he can also play haunting. And I bet HBO would have been able to get him on board, especially if Naughty Dog got Tom Holland for Nathan Drake. And even if he seems too old, you could give him some makeup to make him look younger, like how he looked in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And as an added bonus, he'd look a lot like the game counterpart to David. But we also have James, who is voiced by Troy Baker. Oh my god, the video game version of Joel. That's pretty cool. They're enjoying a meal, and in the morning, they too can be hunting deer and meet Ellie. Now let's pop back to the game, where we get James away to pick up medicine. We make it to this building, where some infected attack, and so they have to fight them off, and as a suggestion, to shoot the runner when they get inside, so they can drop some ammo. But clickers have to go, so we run, and separate, but we meet back up, and face a herd of them, even a bloater coming from above, which I heard. In the original, you just have to shoot its leg before it falls, and it's instant death. And we make it back to the deer, where we then realize that those people who came after Joel and Ellie back in the university were David's men. But on the show side, it's just them talking, without the infected fighting them. But we also know now that David is a Christian.
You know, from Christianity? You ever been to church? You ever read a Bible?
And mentioning that crazy man. Until the original Joel comes, and he gives us the medicine. And we leave. And we see Joel is still in pain. And so we help him with a jab. And went to sleep. And when we woke up, some of David's men came and followed Ellie's trail, which I have to ask 2 questions to the scene. For the one outcome, why didn't you follow the snow tracks? Or you did, but didn't you keep going and find the horse's trail? Even when Ellie goes, it leaves a trail. In which is how you got to the town. Okay, make it 3. How exactly did you miss the tracks until you got to town? You even see Ellie put the horse in a garage, which means the tracks leading to the garage will obviously be where they're at. So you should have found Joel and gotten your revenge. But anyway, they chase her down, which I didn't tell you how to ride your horse yet. Use the L3 stick to move, and press L1 to gallop. Now in this part, keep the horse away from David's men, or they'll just try and get you off. So our horse gets shot, and we run, and making our way through, we get jumped by David.
Hi, it's me.
And when we awaken again, we see that they are cannibals, and Ellie is worried to death. But David tries to recruit her, but Ellie refuses, and gives one of the best comebacks in all video game history.
What am I supposed to tell the others now?
Ellie.
What?
Tell them that Ellie is the little girl who broke your fucking finger.
That's just mean.
So David is planning to chop her up. So he's going away, and I get back to Joel, where I kill some of David's men. Also, that pain that he endured for months can be walked off by a med kit.
You get killed, walk it off.
And so we get 2 of David's men and interrogate them, asking where Ellie was, and I find this method really effective, where if you ask one, then the other, where your hideout is, if they match, they're telling the truth. But Joel only asks one, and kills the other. I'm sorry, what? I know he was tricking the other guy, that his buddy has already told him, but if he decided to lie, for any reason, then that would mean you won't find Ellie. I'd stick to separating them, and then asking both, to guarantee you'd find Ellie's whereabouts, only in case the first guy was lying.
Liar.
But right now, we get back to Ellie, where she bites David, and tells him that she's infected, tricking him to believe that he might actually turn, and so Ellie kills James, which it must be so weird for her HBO counterpart to kill the original Joel, so she runs, and I'm not joking when I say this. I ran like there was no tomorrow. So David's men look for Ellie, as we sneak around getting to her kitchen, which is where they in the HBO series, they all feast every night at, which I kinda like how they show the town in the snow, in the show, and David came through.
Hey, what's up? It's me.
Stop!
And I'm not kidding when I say this, but this boss is the most haunting thing in this whole game. Not only do you have to sneak by David and stab him in the back 3 times, but the whole area has broken plates all around. Meaning if you go in the trail where you are in broken plates, it'll alert David, and every time he spots you, he'll shoot or chase you like the T-1000. And the 3rd phase, he actually tries to sneak like you do. In short, he becomes a stalker, but with a guaranteed kill like a clicker, Nolan North, to voicing a Viking who is said to have tore off a dragon's head as a baby, even if it is the lighter toned version, to voicing a mind-controlled Superman. And you have to kill him with the Suicide Squad, to him voicing Terrence. He voiced Terrence. All of these characters are no way near as intimidating as David, so we get him a 3rd time. I stop having a heart attack, and we get back to Joel, where he finds Ellie's stuff, and finds out that these people are cannibals, and so we head out, and see a giant fire happening. So we head there, and get back to Ellie, where she slowly gets to David's weapon, and David got up, and then tried to choke us out, only for us to grab his weapon and stab the ever-living hell out of him.
28 stab wounds.
But Joel comes to Ellie and stops her, and so they leave, with seeing David's weapon for the last time. Now in the show, she fails to sneak by David.
You did a very bad job. That's embarrassing for you, buddy.
Now Ellie stabs the ever-living hell out of him in the show. But this time, she stopped herself, as Joel just sneaks behind her, and they hug it out. I don't like how Joel just walks up to her, because the HBO show also knew that they were cannibals, and she must have been in lots of stress, and just walking without calling her name seems out of character. After seeing the game's version, I find it disappointing, because they don't have an interaction with the infected, making these two grow a little bond. Thinking that it was another ally, only to hear that David wanted Joel dead, and David isn't as intimidating as he is in the games. I hate that boss with him, but that doesn't make it a bad one. I think it's creative and very grounded. Now there's a little intimidation with David, like making Ellie a new daughter to respect him, but I just don't think it's anywhere near as the game's version. The main reason, I think, is because of how he doesn't bring that darker voice like Nolan North did with this character.
You don't know how good I am!
To his credit, it is messed up, but throughout the whole part, I think sounding too normal brings his intimidation character down with him. Just compare how he says the crazy man scene in both scenes.
Slaughtered by a crazy man. He was murdered by this crazy man. And get this, he's a crazy man traveling with a little girl. And get this, that crazy man was traveling with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason. You see? Everything happens for a reason.
One voice is intimidating and the other is normal, but now onto the final episode, the final chapter of the game and show. In the beginning of this episode, a pregnant woman is running away from a runner, that person being Ellie's mother, voiced by Ashley Johnson. Oh my god, the original Ellie is the mother of HBO Ellie. She kills the runner and gets bit, and she just got Ellie out and cut her cord before she could turn, meaning that Ellie was always born with the infection, and it's how they explain how she's immune, since in the first game, they never actually told us why, she just was. So it's cool seeing how she was immune. But Marlene comes and takes Ellie over her mother's request and kills her. So we jump to the present day, which I shall jump to the show's present day, which was in spring. And we are making our way to the hospital. Then we see this, a giraffe, and a whole herd of them. This was a special moment in the game, because Joel and Ellie endured so much harsh events, had to face all sorts of problems, going throughout 3 seasons. And to see this was a nice wind down. They have this scene in the show, but I think it loses more effect because Joel and Ellie endured less, and some episodes are just cakewalks, such as episode 3, where they just get to the town and get a truck instead of fighting the whole town. Don't get me wrong, I'd still prefer we get the giraffe scene, but you can understand where I'm coming from with not enduring as much. But anyway, back to the game. Now this final base is where you get the last tool to power up the guns, so I better talk about the rest of them. The second one is the file, used for smoothing the metal of the gun. The next one is a muzzle cleaner, used to clean the gun's hole, you get what I mean. Fourth is the socket wrench. This thing can make you turn nuts and bolts in cars. For the gun it does the same with its nuts and bolts. And finally is the bradawl, makes indentations in materials. I'm not 100% about this item, but those are the tools. Now, before getting to the hospital, you have to get through this tunnel, filled with a lot of infected. This is meant to be where you let loose, so if you excuse me, I'm gonna show off my incredible skip. Wait, there's 3 bloaters here. Run! And so making our way we get on a water bus, and almost drowned. Also Ellie, that's not how you open the door, and so we crashed. And Ellie is drowning in the water, and she can't escape, because she can't swim, so we bring her to the surface, when some fireflies knocks us out, which in the show, Joel explains to Ellie, that when the outbreak began, he was going to kill himself.
I can't get her out of my head. The pain. It's too much.
And they just get bombed and get knocked out, which I hate for a few reasons. 1, they're just walking by and then they get knocked out, making these two look incompetent. 2, Ellie can't swim in both the game and show, even if it was a funny joke when Joel jumped in, saying how it isn't that deep. It never gets used as a plot point in the show, like it did in the game. 3, when Joel was trying to save her in the game, even knowing how the fireflies were right in front of him, he still tried his hardest to save Ellie, because he was trying to save his whole new world, right there. Which he does cover her from the bomb, yes, but it isn't anywhere near as effective in the game, because it showed how desperate Joel was to save her. And back to the game, Marlene explains how they can make a vaccine, but in the cost of Ellie's life, which Joel didn't want her to die. Marlene feels the same way, but she knows what the cost is, and so she gets a guide to escort him out, which Joel caught him off guard and asked where she was, and so you must make your way to her, which in the HBO series, they actually got Joel killing soldiers like it's nothing. This and the sniper section was the only time in the show he actually seemed capable of killing, but we also saw this shadow figure, which I believe is Abby, because Joel never shoots her, and if I'm right, is going to be played by Caitlin Dever. This was written before the show came out, so
called it!
And as we are making our way in the game, we get an assault rifle, which just gives me Uncharted vibes, but still be careful. Even with a weapon that can hold lots of ammo, still remember to save your ammo, and we even find recording messages, such as the doctor explaining Ellie's condition.
And an MRI of the brain shows no evidence of fungal growth in the limbic regions, which would normally accompany the prodrome.
Which I won't jump into, because I am not a neuroscientist. Even Marlene has a message, which was meant to be to her old friend, Ellie's mother, which she's going to kill her for the vaccine, and that she'll be returning to her. But we stop the surgery. Now I want to talk about parallels, because I think this scene was done poorly in the show. I'll explain why. Now in the game, you have to get the doctor out of the way, which in the original version, he was named Bruce.
Hello.
But in the second game, and from now on, he's known as Jerry, who is voiced by Derek Phillips, as the show's version is voiced by Darren Dolinsky. You're meant to kill him to get to Ellie, in any way possible, but I think the intended way was with that weapon he guarded himself with. Now in the start of the second game, it begins by recapping the story, and most importantly the ending, which showed Joel hesitant of killing Jerry, showing us Joel's facial expression, it being sorry for him, but with it coming back to serious and protective for Ellie, which I like to think they'll dive in with the second game, because of the reason Abby goes after Joel. I haven't played the second game, but I know some stuff about it. I feel like this is more in line with what Joel believes, because he told Tess back in the Fireflies hideout that they're survivors. He wouldn't just kill an innocent man for fun, nor would he do it out of spite. But if we jump to the show's version, he just shoots Jerry without remorse.
Why?
There's a few reasons why I hate this. First being, Joel didn't feel remorseful for killing Jerry. As I said, he's a hardened survivor, but Jerry was just a man who was trying to save the world. He didn't want to murder Ellie for torment. He did it because he was trying to save the world, and of course Joel didn't know, but we also knew for his daughter's future. The second reason being, I don't think the future events of the second season is gonna give a conflict for both sides.
Think about what he did. How many people are dead because of him?
I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me.
The conflict is of course of the implications of what he did, but the way he did them can tip the scales of the conflict, which I mean how he does it. An example to my point is Transformers 1. Both Orion Pax and D16 are both allies, but once they find out Sentinel Prime was working for another against them, D16 becomes spiteful, and when they all get the powers to transform, he gets aggressive and commanding. We start disagreeing with D16, and root for Orion more, because we knew D16 was becoming Megatron. He even drops Orion to die for wanted a more peaceful solution. After Orion comes back as Optimus and fights the Transformers who believe in Megatron leaves with him, as the others stay with Optimus. The Transformers don't know their story, as we know theirs, so we agree with Optimus. as others may believe in Megatron's side in the end. Okay, maybe not the best example, but if you get the point, I see this as an absolute win. As for this, we and the characters understand what Joel did here, which makes the scales seems more to Abby's side, rather than a balance between the two. But anyway, back to the game. We run, and I like how poetic it is, of how he carries Sarah in the beginning. Now it's mirrored with Ellie. So we get on ground floor, and Marlene tries to stop us, trying to convince Joel to do the right thing, by letting her go, and having the surgery done, only for Joel to refuse, and tell Ellie the biggest lie in her whole life, how her being immune was for nothing, and jumps back to Joel killing Marlene. So we slowly get back to Tommy's place, only for Ellie to have one last talk to Joel, about the fireflies. And he said it was all true, but Ellie isn't so sure, but goes along with it, and that's the game. But before I wrap it up, I want to talk about a few things. For this section, I just want to bring it down a bit. The game holds some extras to it. I never really gave an extra section to the Uncharted series, because I added most of them in throughout the story, but something I do like, is the figures of the characters. By getting points you can unlock the figures to look at, my favorite one being this one, which I heard was a deleted scene between leaving Bill's place, and the ambush scene, which they put in the show, and some extras. By looking at some concept art, in my opinion, get the original, because I find it more interesting, how they were making these characters. As for the remake's concept art, doesn't have the ideas what could have been, but was already made, just in better graphics, and you can even get stuff like unlimited ammo, or listen mode be more effective, so don't pill up, just have it gifted to you, and even different backgrounds, like with Uncharted 4, when everything was like Rainbow Road. Now I want to talk about one more thing. That being what I would do for episode 3 of The Last of Us. As I said, I didn't mind seeing how Bill and Frank got together, but I think it would have been good to see the infected town, since it was one of the longer episodes. I'd say, split the time between the present day and the past with Bill and Frank, so Ellie and Bill can meet up and have that funny back and forth, but instead of introducing the bloater, have it introduce the stalkers. To keep episode 5 a bigger moment, have it so that 2 has to outthink the creature, like maybe going to the walls and looking the opposite side of the wall to not get jumped by it. Maybe even have Bill give them the nail bomb to blow up one of the stalkers, and have it so they have to fight for the battery, since it would give Joel more of a reason not to go to his town if they're infected running around. And I don't mind when he takes Ellie to the base, even when they meet Tommy, because it was Tess's final wish, but it would have given us a showcase in what the stalkers can do, instead of it being underground, trapped. Now I did plan to talk about season 2 teasers, and my thoughts on it, but it's out now, so I'll check it out once this is done. I think The Last of Us is a great story, but I don't like how we don't get as much action compared to Uncharted, but it did have a greater story to any Uncharted, even better than A Thief's End. I think it still holds up strong. The show I feel missed some marks, not to say some stuff what they did was all bad. I would probably say there was more changes I hated than liked. I liked the idea of the infected being zombies with level ups, making them a judge by appearance kinda threat, and I think the game has many talented performances. Heck, even the making of this had them singing.
Out of here, what then?
It's not for you to decide.
You can still do the right thing, Joel!
Now, I think I'll give The Last of Us a 8 out of 10. As for the show, I'd give a 5 out of 10. Now if you excuse me, I'm going offline for a bit, so I don't get spoiled for Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I'm going to be honest, I bet it's gonna be my game of the year. Don't cry, Last of Us fans. Neil Druckmann has enough re-releases to last you your entire life. Jerry, come over here ASAP.
We have to see how you die in the complete edition.